Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Ham Nation is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by ICOM and the American Radio Relay League Sweepstakes Phone Contest, running from November 17th to the 19th. For more information, visit ARRL.org/sweepstakes. This is Ham Nation, show 73, recorded November 14th, 2012, CW Sweepstakes Weekend.
Hello, everybody. From Pleasant Hope, Missouri, this is K9EID for another great show of Ham Nation, where we're gonna talk about ham radio, and we have a really nice show tonight. Very, very much fun as usual, and of course, joining us from Costa Mesa, out there where it's warm, is WB6NOA. Hi, Gordon. How are you, buddy?
I am fine. In fact, it won't be warm long in that we've got a cold front coming in from the north, and I'm heading all the way to the east as soon as we finish this cast to join up with Radio Club of America this Friday for their big get-together on Friday and Friday evening banquet. Dave Sumner will be there as well, addressing probably 300 to 400 very knowledgeable radio folks. And then a week later, I stay there on the East Coast. Hope to see many of you in the city or Long Island. Then we head to Gene's place, KJI, and I know you know Gene and Marianne, Bob. And KJI will celebrate Thanksgiving, and then Black Friday, we're going to be doing some training for extra class, and then Friday night club meetings, Saturday and Sunday at KJI. I look forward to meeting all of you and hearing some of the stories that we're going to hear later on tonight on how the East Coast was ravaged. So we'll be back there in just a few hours. Bob, back to you.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to meeting up with you Tuesday night when I do the Skype meeting with the Suffolk Club, and you're going to be there live, so that'll be fun. Hey, before I get started, you know, every week we all wear different shirts and stuff like that. Well, I got this really special shirt from our youngest, Dr. Ash and Michelle up in Buffalo. I got to stand up because you got to read it. You're going to love this. This is great. My idea of good literature.
I love it. That's great.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that's
Yay. Great. Yeah, thanks to the good Dr. Ash and Michelle. That was really cool. So it's a valued shirt. I'll be able to wear that at a lot of ham meetings and conventions and so on. How much fun. So we wanted to show you our birthday shirt. Hey, I ran across something this week, and I got to share this. I am really excited because before we go talk to our friend Dan, you know, years ago, back in the 50s, when I started in this hobby, we had a thing from General Electric called the GE Ham News. Did anybody remember this?
Wow, look at
that.
And
these were fabulous. They came out a couple of times each month, and they were newsletters about how to build things. And it was our education, because we could build these things, put them on the air, have fun with them. Well, not to be outdone, RCA, who built our tubes for us, came out with their own called the RCA Ham Tips. And wow, these are just wonderful. Here's the one about how TVI filters would work. It was a big deal back in the 60s. We have a how to build a dummy load. We didn't have things to just go buy all the time. We built them. Here's a ad on the back for a 500 watt. It's just really great stuff. Well, guess what? I found them on the internet, and I can share them with you. You can go to these sites, just put in RCA ham tips into Google, or GE ham news. And thank you, Alex. There's the page, and you can see many of them. I really encourage everybody to go do this. New and old alike, you're going to really enjoy the great reading of what happened in the early days, but a lot of it still has a lot of reference from today. So you want to go check it out. Just put RCA ham tips into Google, and then put GE ham news into Google, and you'll get all of these. It's just so much fun. And we have to thank N4TRB. He's the guy that put all this together. So how much fun was this? I've been reading through these the last few days, and boy, does it bring back memories, because this is what we did, was to read through all these great things. They're building a nice little RF deck and modulators and all that. But it's a little different today, guys, because today we've got all kinds of things in the internet and so on. And here's Ham Nation bringing you all this great information also on the internet. So it's a little different, but it's still information about ham radio. And we have something going on here with the show. Actually, every TWiT show has show notes. And we wanted to bring Dan on for a little bit. Dan does the show notes after every show. And you can go back and read some of the things that we do on the show. And where is Dan here? N9LVS, good friend. Where are you, Dan? How you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Well, we appreciate your help, and I wanted you to explain to everyone what you do and where we can find the show notes, and all about what's going on with the show notes after Ham Nation.
Well, I usually do the show notes during the show, and what I do is I break it up into 3 parts. I do the original show notes, basically everything that you guys do during the show. And that goes up right away that night, usually within 5 or 10 minutes after the show is complete. And then the next day I go in there and I put in all the after show nets. So if you're visit the 40 meter net or the 20 meter net or the D-Star net or the Echolink net, you can actually see your name up in lights on the show notes because they do send me all the check-in list. And then we also at that time I usually add in some of the links that I find to get a little bit more in depth on what you guys talked about. Sometimes I'll find different links for different subjects that I'll just put in there as extra, so that when somebody visits the show notes, they can click on the link and take them to a little bit more information than what was even discussed on the show.
Well, they're very informative, and something that a lot might not know about. And we wanted to let everybody know that you can go in and see these for each of the shows. And boy, we really appreciate your help in doing that. It's a lot of work. Man, it takes you a lot of time. How long you spend? How many hours you spend doing that, Dan?
Well, actually, I don't spend a lot of time. I actually have gotten it down to where I can do the show notes on the fly during the show. And I actually created my own template that helps me with a lot of it. If you notice, our show notes are different than any other show that's on TWiT. But, you know, we kind of customized it for the show. And so I've got a template that I put in there, and that helps me quite a bit. And then the document and stuff like that we have. I spend total is probably about 2 hours, because I do a little bit of research, especially with George's Smoke and Solder. Sometimes I find some extra links on places to get parts and stuff like that, and we'll throw those in there as well.
Oh, that's great. Well, I appreciate you doing all of that. And I know that there's a lot of people that do pay attention after the show to read through it, and we can come back to it also. And how do we find it? What's the best way to find it, Dan?
wiki.twit.tv/ and then HN for Ham Nation. And then
okay, do that again.
It's wiki.twit.tv/ HN. That'll bring you to the main page, and then you just click on the episode that you want, and down toward the bottom there's show notes, and click on the show note that you want, and it goes from there.
All right, that's terrific. Well, we really appreciate all your help and everything you do to keep more activity here on Ham Nation, and we'll probably see you afterwards on 75 meters. You got a great mobile radio too. I hear you on the air every once in a while. Man, this guy is really something. What do you use in a mobile? What are you using there?
In the mobile, I have a 857D hooked up to a ALS 1300, and that goes to a homebrew antenna that at 20 meters, it's just about doesn't need any coil. So it's 15 feet to the top. So so even on 40, I'm pretty close to resonant, you know.
Hey, Gordo, how do you like that? A little antenna tuner for 1,000 watt in the mobile. You got something like that going on in your van, don't you?
No, not quite that intense. And I've heard Dan's signal out here, so it's definitely doing a great job. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
What's nice in the mobile is when you got on 80 meters and at night and create a Corona ball on there. You don't have to worry about tailgaters. Nobody wants to tailgate that. It's kind of weird, you know.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Dan, for all, and thanks for coming on with us tonight. And we'll see you later on one of the after the show nets, and we'll stay in touch. In 9 LVS. All right, show note master. Thanks, you very
Dan.
much.
73.
That's great. Go ahead there, Gordo.
No, I think that's great. He does a fabulous job. Well, we have several reporting folks out there that have sent us all sorts of emails here at Ham Nation talking about all the destruction on the East Coast. And one of our APRS members, Don W6GPS, appropriate call sign, actually went up there on behalf of his church. He has about a 2-minute video. And wow, when you see it, especially the high water line in one of the homes he was visiting and helping out with and dispensing rations to these displaced folks. I think you'll be impressed with how the community has really rallied behind those on the East Coast to help them cope with this terrible disaster. And I'll be back there tomorrow. We'll see for ourselves this coming weekend exactly what we see here in video. So, Alex, if you'll roll the W6 GPS video on Hurricane Sandy coming ashore.
This is Don W6 GPS, and I am in the Rockaways in Queens, New York, doing relief work for my organization, Baptist International Missions. And what we've done is we've set up, one of my missionaries has set up a feeding station, a relief center where they're giving out hot food and where they're giving out supplies and things like that. I've been on a lot of trips and I've seen a lot of things, but down here on the Rockaways, it is extremely, extremely needy. You do see a good group or team effort on people helping each other out. We have people stop by and drop supplies off and things like that. And there's a lot of organizations out here trying to meet the needs of the people. But this is going to be a significant event, and it's going to take a while for things to get sorted out. I just talked with the one of the electric officials, and substation will be put together in about 2 weeks, and then they're going to have to go by every house and every business to see what the condition of their power service is. So I just want to file a short report here, and those of you that would be interested in help out, 100% of your donations go to the relief effort here, and you can go to bimi.org, and there's a PayPal link there. But lots of needs here, and I'm glad that I can help work here to meet some of the spiritual needs of the people. Thank you, and have a great day. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Don. Again, that webpage, www.bimi. And many hams have gone into that disaster area, and I'll be reporting in 2 weeks about all of the VHF, UHF, the D-Star connections, the digital IRLP and Echolink connections that hams have been able to establish. Not a lot on HF, but a ton on VHF and UHF, and we'll give you the full story in about 2 weeks. And of course, next Tuesday, Bob and I will be on the air via Skype at one of the clubs right next to the ocean. That's a lot closer. So, Bob, I show next Don Wilbanks. Bob, do you want to go over to Newsline at this time? Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we better go down and see what's going on in New Orleans, and he'll bring us some more news about amateur radio with his Newsline report.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 1839, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, November 14th, 2012. After 5 years of discussions and negotiations with the German Space Agency, AMSAT DL reports that nation's space exploration group has withdrawn its support for the amateur satellite organization's plan to send a ham radio satellite to Mars.
This is the so-called P5, or Phase 5 satellite mission. According to the AMSAT News Service, the agency advised the group that P5's mission was not financially feasible, and also that compared with the current Mars missions, the scientific attraction was simply not there. You can read that to mean that the project is simply not of sufficient interest to the formal scientific research community. The decision by the German Space Agency also affects plans for a geostationary Earth-orbiting ham radio satellite, that being the so-called Phase 3E, which was to be a part of the overall P5 program. None of this is good news for amateur radio's future exploration of the final frontier. For the Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Bert Hicks in Los Angeles.
AMSAT DL officials note that their organization recently had some interesting meetings in China, adding that if it cannot do rocket science in Germany, it will have to look to other countries. The ARRL is warning hams who want to assist those regions affected by Hurricane Sandy to not self-deploy to those areas. There are many ARRL sections involved, and each has different requirements as to how they locate, credential, and deploy volunteers. If a need for manpower is identified that cannot be met locally or in a given ARRL section, its leadership may contact other ARRL sections for assistance. If the need is still not met, section leadership may then contact ARRL headquarters for the needed assistance. But the bottom line is, you are not to go to any devastated area unless you are specifically asked to do so. Some of the most important messaging during Hurricane Sandy or any other hurricane was handled by the unsung heroes of the VOIP Hurricane Net.
They truly are the unsung heroes of ham radio that few in the hobby know about, but they do the kind of volunteer work that is needed to assist the National Weather Service and other served agencies when disaster is near. And during Hurricane Sandy, their contributions were immense.
WSOGOX from N1LU. Seeing a dramatic increase in the amount of wires down, trees taking out, transformers, and power lines here in the city of Meriden, Connecticut.
That's the sound of the VOIP, Skywarn, and Hurricane Net.
We're very, very concerned about Rhode Island for coastal storm surge flooding, basically from the Dartmouth, New Bedford area. West is our big concern coming up here. So we're going to try to do the best we can to get some data. A lot of those areas are going to be closed off, so we're going to try to see what we can come up with to gather data there. That I know is extremely critical.
The VoIP Skywarn and Hurricane nets operate by combining both Echolink and IRLP linked repeaters over the Internet. This provides for a more efficient and effective utilization of available resources while handling critical wide-area communications during major severe weather events. To learn more about the efforts of the VoIP Hurricane Net, you are invited to join the VoIP-WXNET Yahoo group or simply visit VoIPWX.net on the World Wide Web. I'm Bill Pasternak, WA6ITF in Los Angeles.
More on Hurricane Sandy and ham radio relief efforts in future Amateur Radio Newsline and Ham Nation reports. Amateur Radio Newsline producer Bill Pasternak, WA6ITF, will be the featured guest on the Saturday night, November 17th edition of the Echolink Newsline Net. The net meets every Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Do-Drop-In conference server. That's Echolink node number 355800. According to Steve Seacrest, W8WFO, this is not the original name for the gathering. Rather, because it's been running our weekly report for such a long time that those signing in began calling it the Amateur Radio Newsline or Newsline Network. Again, you're welcome to join in on the net conference at Echolink node 355800 on Saturday night, November 17th at 9 p.m. Eastern to hear Newsline's Bill Pasternak, WA6ITF, talk about numerous things in ham radio and do his best to answer your questions. Bill says he hopes to meet many of you there. And that's all from Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news, brought to you each and every week for 35 years and counting at www.arnewsline.org. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.
All right. Thanks, Don. And Bob, over to you. And then I've got a little word from ICOM America. Bob?
Okay, very good. I appreciate seeing the videos with the Newsline. That's really great, and Don does such a wonderful job. And thanks to Bill and all the guys at Newsline that keeps this going. And we've got to support that effort. That's for sure. And I got a couple of things we're going to do. I am slowly getting this place together. As you can see, each week we have more and more things coming up. In just a minute, we're going to run a video to show you how we got the tower up. That was amazing. So we'll do that right after this. And from here, we've got an ad about our friends at ICOM.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. I can't wait to see that tower. And this is the big weekend. And this episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by ICOM America and the American Radio Relay League Sweepstakes phone contest this weekend. And it runs from November 17th to the 19th. And to learn more about the contest this weekend, go to ARRL.org/sweepstakes. Pay particular attention on how to do the exchange, so you do it nice and quick to let those operators that are trying to break some new records make those records. Now, the sound you'll be hearing during the weekend is going to be CQ Contest. CQ Contest. That's right, it's the ARRL Sweepstakes Phone Contest. ICOM America has a deep commitment to amateur radio and is proud to, once again, be the principal award sponsor for this event. Although this is an ARRL contest, you can quickly earn your WAS, Worked All States Award from CQ. Now, we've talked about the ARRL Sweepstakes CW contest earlier this month. That was a great contest. Well, this weekend, it's the phone contest. The ARRL and ICOM, who will be sponsoring many award plaques this year, both recognize the importance of contests like the sweepstakes. This allows hams to test their skills and stations, and it's a public award recognition for many radio amateurs. So get on the air, make lots of contacts, and submit your logs. Earn awards along the way like Worked All States and Clean Sweep. Top contesters get a certificate and plaque from a sponsoring individual or club or ICOM America, the principal awards sponsor. Logs for this event are due December 4th, 2012. Now, even if you're not interested in heavy competition, there is still plenty to do this weekend. You can test your station's ability with hundreds of others on the air. you can hone your on-air skills. And clubs can enjoy the camaraderie that comes with a great on-air effort. ARRL is a world of fun. If you've never done the sweepstakes before, give it a try. ICOM has lots of great radios for contesting. I'm going to be using the IC 9100 myself. Visit arrl.org/sweepstakes for an introductory guide to sweepstakes and contest rules, and most important, how to give that exchange and get in and out as quickly as possible. Now, make sure you visit icomamerica.com/hamnation for more info on ICOM. Remember, ICOM is a principal award sponsor and manufacturer of great radios for contesting. You can also enter ICOM's weekly drawing for items like T-shirts and hats. Congratulations to previous drawing winners. To check out if you've won something from ICOM America, go to icomamerica.com/hamnation and click View Last Week's Winners. So good luck to you on this contest weekend. I'll be in New York City. I'll be on many of the local repeaters with my ICOM handheld, and I'll be operating D-Star as well. So hope to work you this weekend, if nothing else, on VHF and UHF, but maybe I'll find an HF station to take part in ICOM and the American Radio Relay League's sweepstakes. So, Bob, back to you, and maybe we'll hear you on the air as well.
You will, if I can get this wired up. I got lots of wiring to do, but I'm getting there. So far, I've had 50 coax connectors plus that I put in this crazy system. But I'll get my 7600 fired up, or the 78. I got them either one. But we're going to show you a little piece of video of how this tower got happening here in good old Pleasant Hope. So let's start out here with a couple of the slides, Alex, and see if we can explain what happened out here in the meadow. This is about 2 weeks ago. And we were very lucky to have a lot of guys come and help us. I'll talk you through some of this. It starts off with a U.S. Tower MA550 and a Force 12 C3 antenna, an M² 5 element for 6 meters, and a Cushcraft 11 element. But in any of these things, you got to have the right people to do it. And we were very fortunate that Complete Electric came in and did the concrete work. It all starts off coming in a UPS and a couple of boxes, but not the tower. The tower came in with a crane because it's about 500 or 600 pounds, and Complete Electric brought that out. Jeremy and his guys were really, really good. They brought it out and got things all ready to go, and we had to lay all the parts out. But the first thing, and this is very important, everybody, you've got to pay attention to the specs. These are engineering specifications of what has to happen because this is a self-supporting tower. So they dug the hole, and then all this rebar had to be built. Jeremy did a great job with that. And that follows the specs from U.S. Tower. It's about 6 feet deep and about 8 foot wide. But notice the grounding, very important. He used about a number 8 wire that clamped onto the rebar and then went into the ground rod. Then came the old cement truck, and away they went. Set this all up and got her all level. That was very important that was exactly level. And, of course, you got to do that. My goodness, you got to put your name in it. We let that cure for 2 weeks, and then we laid all the parts out. The tower itself, which was nested to 20 feet, the base, and, of course, the raising fixture. So here we go. Here was Jeremy and myself lifting this baby up and trying to get her in position, which we did without any struggle because everything was level, all the bolts matched, and we were ready to go. Here, I got him all sorted out and level. Then we had to raise the tower. And Jeremy relied on his bucket truck for that. and picked that 500-600-pound monster up and dropped it right into the socket on the mounting base. And it all set for elevation and leveling and all that, and everything was fine. And you do that with the bolts at the bottom. Then came my friends, W0LPR and W0VKW. They came out, Houston and Jim, and helped me put the C3 together. No, they didn't help me. I didn't help them, really. They've put about 4 of these together. Houston's the master at Force 12 C3s with their pop rivet guns. Unfortunately, the insulators that C3 that came with the C3 weren't right, so he made them on his lathe and stuff. He's really great, and he made this really neat mount that mounted the ballon. That doesn't come with the antenna, but it should. It really was nice to be able to secure the ballon. So then come the good time. Next day, we put the C3 on the tower, and W0ERE and W0SAP came up from the Branson area with a 2-meter antenna and helped me put that all together. And so we put those on the tower. You see, this tower rotates. The whole tower rotates. It's fascinating. You'll see later. I got up and secured the cabling. I wanted it to be all nice and straight, and wire tied it on and got things all set up for the 3 antennas. There's the all-important one. We have to make sure they're all parallel. Well, you don't have to, but it looks like you've done it yourself if you don't do that. So we made sure that was all right. All looked good, so we're going to speed things up a little bit here. And we cranked her up. And you'll see Dave here in the foreground. He was pulling one of the long wire antennas back, coaxial dipoles, and getting it out of the way, make sure we didn't hook it going up. And away we went. I was cranking away. Guaranteed I wasn't cranking that fast. But the magic of video, we can do that. Up she went to 20 foot. After all this time, good stuff, and all my good friends to help me, and Jeremy and the Complete Electric guys, we're there. The tower sits on this really strong, heavy thrust bearing, and at the bottom of the thrust bearing is where the rotor sits. We haven't connected it yet, because we had things to do. We had to bring it all up and get it level. But you can see where the Yaesu rotor, it'll pull up into position in a little bit. But there you see the tower, and that's the raising fixture that will come off the tower when we're ready to go here. That's the clamp that holds it. And that is the fixture that raises it. And all of this wonderful coax runs through a great piece of PVC that Jeremy suggested. I had some little white stuff. He said, no, you got to use the real stuff here. You got to use the gray stuff so it doesn't deteriorate. Then I wired it into this wonderful switch relay box from Ameritron. MFJ builds this great piece. We got to talk more about that because it's really good. It switches these antennas. And it was cold that day. There we go, Gordo. You can't put up an antenna unless it's cold. Well, it was warm all those other days. But the days I soldered the relays and the connectors, guess what? It was cold. So I had on my heavy jacket and away we went. And I ran it up to about 40 feet the first day or so to just make sure everything was okay. And eventually it went on up to 60. But we did get it all together, and it does work very well. And thanks to all. And now we're ready for the DX, right in time for the contest, man. And thanks to W0LPR and W0VKW, W0SAP, and W0ERE. They were really helpful. And, of course, all of the guys at Complete Electric helped me immensely in getting this thing together. So that's what you got to do to make it all happen and make sure it's going to be right. And I'm fortunate to have all these friends help me. So that's a little bit of information about that. Inside is this little genius box that's the other side, the other end of that relay. I have a very nice piece of LMR 400 that feeds the VHF antennas, and this will select whether I want 6 meters, 2 meters, or of course then the low frequency antenna, and that's all done from in here. So you want to investigate that. The Ameritron, by the way, it's an RCS8V. That's the remote relay from them. And we'll have more on that in subsequent shows. But now I got to get with my Dow key relays. I still use them for all of my old stuff behind, and we'll get into that a little later. But Gordo, there you are. You could have been here and held a wrench. You can do that pretty good, can't you?
Great job. And I can't wait to hear your signal soon, maybe from the East Coast first time.
There you go. And I missed George. George should have been here with his soldering station and getting all that going. My goodness. So, George, do you approve of all that? They're looking okay for you?
It looks great, Bob. Boy, I would sure like to have something there. That looks like the perfect tower solution there, because you don't have to climb it. You can just lean it over there and put your antennas on them, or bring it down and work on them, and then just crank it back up. So, boy, I don't know that you could want anything any better.
Well, it really is nice. We got a 10-foot piece out the top, so it's 65 foot to the top. While we're here, I've got something I want to show you and discuss with you. You know, I have 15 coaxes going out here. We've talked about this a lot, and we've showed how we did that earlier. And out at the end, I ended up with 4 of them on that tower. And although you label these things, I'm one of these guys that, oh boy, did I label it right? Is it right? I'm going to show you how I figure out, and I do this a lot when I'm tracing cables. Yeah, we've got all kinds of instruments to do that today, the Fox and the Hounds and all those little devices. But I'm going to show you what this old ham radio operator does to trace down the wires. Alex, if you got that first slide, I use an old cassette recorder. And out at the end, I use the other, put the other one up first, Alex. And this is an old cassette recorder with a George Wright pipe organ tape in it. And I take some wire clips, plug it into the headphone jack, and actually put that audio down the coax line. Now look at the other slide. I go out in the meadow. There you can see it. I go out in the meadow, and I put my headphones on, and I put those clip leads to the other end, and if I hear George Wright pipe organ music, I got the right coax. What do you think, George? Is that kind of silly or what?
Oh, Bob, that's great. And you get 2 smoking solder brownie points for that one.
Well, I've been doing it all my life, and Stephen and Jerry back at the Heil Sound plant, they make fun of me when I do stuff like this. Well, I'll tell you one thing, man. When we're tracing wires, I know I got the right wire because I can hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Hey, Gordo, you think I lost my mind on this one or what?
No, that's a great idea. I usually hang a big 500 microfarad cap and tap it with an ohm meter, R times 10,000, and watch it go down. But I like the music idea much better.
Well, it works. It works. Oh, gosh. George, let us know what real engineers do. Let's hear something about smoke and solder tonight, and we'll get these tinker toys out of the way for you so you guys can make some real sense of this hobby.
Well, Bob, what you just did is what a real engineer does. You know, you use what you've got. Who wants to go, you know, digging through all these boxes of junk trying to find a Fox and Hound when you've got a cassette recorder and a pair of headphones sitting right there handy? I mean, whatever works. And, you know, that's as good as the next solution. I wonder, though, if, you know, if you listened on some of those other pairs of cables there, did you hear Joe Walsh?
No, but I thought about that. I might have been able to catch a couple of talk box riffs, but no, I didn't hear anything. It was all George Wright Wurlitzer theater organ music.
Yeah, just a kind of well, not exactly the same thing, but just an interesting thing. When I was working at a group of stations I used to work at, our studios had miles and miles of wire run down in the basement. I was trying to identify one night, and I had out my little speaker. I was using that instead of headphones. It had a little amplifier in it, and I clipped across a pair of wires, and I heard the audio from a 50 kilowatt station that was about 20 miles away from me, but boy, it was booming right on in. So I guess that one was cut just the right length. But that was a strange thing. But yeah, whatever works, you know, ohm meter, speakers, a speaker and a battery, you know, whatever you can find handy. Well, this week on Smoke and Solder, we're going to get back to building that SoftRock RX-TX ensemble with the divider stage. This week on Smoke and Solder, we continue building the SoftRock RX-TX ensemble from 5-.com with part 3, the dividers. The divider stage takes the local oscillator that we built recently and divides it by 4, producing 2 output signals. Each output signal is at a frequency that's 1/4 of the stage's input, and it's a square wave with a 50% duty cycle. The signals are in quadrature, and that means that they're 90 degrees out of phase with each other, and these are used to feed the TX and RX mixer stages as clocking signals. There aren't many parts to the divider, so we'll install the surface mount parts first, which is U5. That's a 74AC74 divider chip. And pin 1 will go right here. And we'll also install C57. Now I'm going to use hot air method again this week, so I'll put a couple of little lines of solder paste across the pads for the chip. And we'll also put a little solder paste on the pads for the capacitor. Now let's look at the chip. We see a little line there. That'll indicate where pin 1 is. It's at the bottom left-hand corner if you're looking in the direction that the writing is on there. This is the correct direction, and we'll place it down on the board and align it up as best we can. Next, we'll put on the 0.01 microfarad surface mount capacitor. And it's time to bring out our hot air embossing tool, and we'll begin heating it up here. And I think I've got it a little too close to the board. If you watch there, it's blowing the chip around on the board. So there's nothing to do but realign the chip and start over. I'm holding the hot air gun back a little further this time, and you can see the paste start to melt and the solder flow here on the top row of the chip. Now we'll move on in the bottom row. It seems to be going a little bit faster. Everything stayed in good order there. And now we're heating up the 2 ends of the surface mount capacitor, and we can see the solder paste turn shiny there. And that's it. You know, this hot air soldering method just seems to get easier and easier the more I do it. So we'll let this cool down now for a moment, and then we'll check to make sure that we got a good connection everywhere. Well, let's look a little closer now, and it looks like there are no solder bridges here on the pin of the chip, so that's good. And the capacitor seems to be seated in well. And we'll take a dental pick and look at these leads a little bit closer on the chip. This is what I was concerned with, and it looks like it's on there good. All the rest of them seem to be firmly connected as well. And if we rotate it and look at all the pins carefully, we don't see any solder bridges, so all of this should be in good shape. There's only 2 components to mount to the top of the board, and that's R13 and R14. Now it's time to do a little testing, and we'll begin where we always do, with a current draw test. And the reason you would do this first is because if you're drawing too much current, this will give you an opportunity to get things unplugged before you damage it. And we'll apply the power supply there. We've got our current meter in line, and it says 7.6 milliamps. Now the spec is less than 20 milliamps, and the author had measured 13.2 milliamps, so we're considerably below him, but I believe we're okay, so let's do the rest of the test. I've switched my meter over to voltage now, and we're going to do what's called a voltage divider test. We'll measure from the hairpin of R50 here, which will be ground, up to the hairpin of R13, and we should measure half of the 5 volt supply. We've got 2.54 volts, so that's close enough. Now, let's measure from the hairpin of R14, and this should show us the full 5 volts, and it's 5.04, so that's good. Now we'll use our ancient Heathkit Nixie tube frequency counter, and we'll measure the divider outputs. Now there's 4 places that we want to measure here, and they should be 1/4 of the frequency that we're putting in, which is 28.171 megahertz. We'll measure the first output, and it's 7.042 megahertz, which is 1/4. We'll measure the second one and find out it's the same frequency. Then we'll measure the third. Here again, we're coming up with 1/4 of our input frequency, and the final one, bingo, once again. So we're good on all of those. Now, you may not have a frequency counter, but you can still do some measurements here. I've got a coax run to the input of my HF rig. I'm going to clip a little jumper lead on here that we'll use as an antenna, and I'm going to lay that lead across the top of the divider chip here, and we'll measure it with our HF rig. As we tune in the vicinity of the expected frequency, we can see there we've got a little carrier, and it's right about where we'd expect it to be. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are 4 outputs on here, but it's actually 2 pairs, QSE and QSD. If I look here at the 2 outputs of QSE, I see that when one is rising, the other is falling. And that's because they're in quadrature with each other, or out of phase. And they should look both the same, but if you'll remember a while back, I discovered that one of the probes from my scope was not very good. So there you have it. The divider state for the SoftRock RXTX ensemble.
Oops.
Yeah, not good clean square waves there, but I know there's a scope problem or with one of the probes, but you know, for what I was looking for there, it worked just fine. Next week, we're going to continue building on that kit. And, you know, so far I've been using that hot air method the whole way through. Next week, I'm actually going to bring out the soldering iron, Bob, and give it a go with that.
That's okay. We're ready for the soldering iron. And I hope that your pattern looks a little better. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Yep, exactly. That was kind of ugly there. But, yeah, you know, it let me see what was going on. Yeah. We've got some things to give away here. First, I want to mention the HF station contest giveaway that ICOM has provided that nice IC7200 for. We've also got a tuner and a power supply from MFJ, a Heil Sound ICM mic, Gordon West Radio School study materials, and antennas from MFJ, a couple off-center fed dipoles, and some cable from the Wireman. And my partner Tommy and I are going to throw in some PL259, so whoever wins this can put it together. But it's a complete HF station, and we want to thank all the sponsors for that. But if you'd like to participate in that, just go watch the latest episode of AmateurLogic.tv to get the details. By the way, there'll be a new episode out tomorrow. And, Bob, that antenna switch that you had there a moment ago, I'm going to show a video of the MFJ factory, the metal shop, you know, where they actually stamped out that box and build all the enclosures for the MFJ and Ameritron gear. So that'll be a lot of fun. For our weekly smoke and solder contest, you know, last week I built a speaker, and the question I had was, what is a Sweet 16? And boy, I got to tell you, the answers for this one were all over the board. Anywhere from a CB linear amplifier, which I had never thought about that, to things totally unrelated. But what a Sweet 16 is, it's something I had read about, and I got the exact answer I was looking for here in the random drawing. Doug, AA0DW, said he enjoyed the show, and here's his answer to what a Sweet 16 is. He says, Sweet 16 was a name given to an early column-type speaker back in the 1960s. The speaker was homemade for the article that appeared in Popular Electronics magazine, and that's where I remember reading about it. It had 16 speakers in it and had an excellent flat response. He said not so good on the high ends he had heard, but he had a friend that built some of these and they sounded great. And, you know, you take 16 speakers in there and each of them were 8 ohms, I believe, is what they were using. And you just wire them in the right combination of series and parallel to where you come up with 8 ohms at the end. And there you go. And you've got one monster speaker made out of a lot of little bitty ones. That's something I always wanted to build, but never have. I've been saving these little piezo buzzers or little piezo speakers that come in computers for several years now, and I've got about 16 of them, so I'm going to make me a Sweet 16 piezo speaker sometime, and I'm not expecting real good results out of it. But for next week's contest, if you'd like to enter, send me an email to hamnationcontest@gmail.com and answer this. What was I using to feed the signal into that divider in the SoftRock project this week? There's an element in there that I'm not going to say what it is, but that's what actually feeds the divider. Tell me what that is, and you could win a great prize here. Yes, we've got another one of these ARRL antenna books. It's the complete edition, comes with the CD in there as well. This is going to make a nice prize for someone, whoever's got the right answer and is lucky enough to be drawn. So drop me an email, hamnationcontest@gmail.com, and tell me what is feeding that divider. Bob?
That's great. That's great. Well, congratulations, Doug, because you're right. Boy, I remember the Sweet 16, and you'll be surprised, George. Doesn't sound too bad. That's great. Well, one thing I'm doing, George, is I got to wire up my panels underneath here. We'll get into that some, but I needed switches. And I had a real tough time finding a lever switch. We used to use them all the time. And then I got to thinking, hey, Heil, guitar. So I had 10 of these out of my old stock, and it's out of a Les Paul guitar. I got 10 of them, and that's what's going to switch my antennas and all kinds of stuff behind me. George, you'll be proud. I even did a schematic. What's going to happen? Check it out.
Wow, that is neat. That's my
and the little box.
Type.
We got to build box. Got to build the box and got to, name it and all that good stuff. But that's just half of it because that's only the new stuff. But you have to draw a schematic, don't you? I mean, isn't that the first thing to do?
I think that's required by law. Not many people do it, though. But that's my favorite type of switch that you use there. I mean, I don't use Les Paul switches, but when I go to the Ham Fest, I always look around on the tables of old stuff, and I buy those lever switches like that. They're some of the best in the world. If you get a dirty switch contact, so easy to clean. I mean, you use one of those, and it's there for life.
That's right. So look for the. That's why you go to Ham Fest, guys. You go in the flea market and buy all this kind of stuff. Well, we got somebody that has to approve of all of this because she's sitting back in the corner watching the chat room, and I haven't been able to watch the chat room tonight, so I hope she saves it and sends it to her. I bet you guys were going crazy a while ago and all this stuff going on. But Cheryl, how are you doing? It's nice to have you with us, and what's been going on in your world of the Ham Nation chat room tonight? Have you been watching all this crazy stuff we're doing?
Oh, absolutely, Bob. And then some. It's been really a lot of fun out there. And as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to start off with you, but I'd like to say hi, everybody in the chat room. And it's been great to see you this time. Bob, it looks like they want to say they think that your station looks amazing. And I agree. I liked what we saw here. That was sent from KL3JG, Eric. He says he loves your phased antennas. Of course, those rock for sure. But what you had on the video, that was great. And I just wanted to know, when you said that the holes actually matched up when you were doing the mounting, did you personally mark those off with a pencil so they would line up, or did the other guys do that?
No, that's why I had Complete Electric here. I didn't trust myself. And Jeremy puts up light poles in all the malls and parking lots, and he does this daily. So I figured these are the guys. I wouldn't trust myself. So yeah, they fit perfect, as you saw.
So does Complete Electric use a metric crescent wrench?
No, this was just good old, I think it was 3/4 inch nuts, something like that. Yeah, it was good old American stuff.
I had to tease you a little bit because those things, you just go like this and they can be any size. I'm only teasing you, but another comment about tools there. You have the Sweet 16 for carpenters. That's a 16-foot tape measure. That's also a true answer. So I don't know if George got any of those, but before we go over to him, I just wanted to ask you, someone really liked your shirt and that would be NM1W Jim. He says, where do we get a shirt like that? They want to know where you got that thing.
I'll have to ask Dr. Ashley. Isn't that cool? I don't know where they got it, but it's really cool, and I'll find out for you. I'll let you know. So maybe next week we can see if Ashley and Michelle will tell us.
And we also had a question here that I did answer in the chat room, but I'm just going to put it out there anyhow because everybody always asks this on a regular basis. Does Ham Nation run an Echo Link node? And the answer is yes, we do actually. And it's the Echo Link net is on star, dewdrop, and all in capitals with another star, and the node is 355-800, 355-800. Either way you want to look at it, but that'll get you in there. And then I'm going to have to move over to George. I'm going to have to pick your brain a little bit there. George, are you there with us?
I'm still here.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fine.
They want to know, that would be KF5 RRF Randy. He says, what are you using for a heat gun? I used to use a butane torch years ago. So what are you using?
Well, as I reach into the magic drawer here, I'm using a purple sparkled hot air embossing tool. You can get this at the hobby shop. I don't remember what it cost. It was probably $20. This would work, as a heat gun for heat shrink tubing. I would not use a regular heat shrink tubing gun, though. You need something like this. It gets hot enough and the airflow is not so much coming out that you're going to blow stuff everywhere, although I did blow stuff around this week.
Well, thanks for that answer. We appreciate that. And I'd like to move over to Gordo out on the West Coast. Are you there with us, Gordo?
We are here. Go ahead.
They wanted to know, what was the, I'm trying to just go through some of these things. What's on Gordo's monitor on the left? That was sent to us from VE3 MIC Mike, that would be. He wanted to know.
Okay. Hi, Michael. That's the Amateur Television Network ATN repeater, and we constantly watch that because Don and all his crew usually have ATN videos rolling as well. So that's Ham TV up on 1.2. No, actually, it's 400 megs that we're watching tonight.
Excellent, excellent. And Gordo, this one is also going to be for you. It's going to be a question and sort of an answer from somebody else. I'd like you to verify if this is accurate. But we had a C Mike, no call sign. He says, what's the difference between IRLP and Echolink? And then W8YXM John said, and I'd like to have this verified by you, IRLP is usually repeater to repeater. You can connect to an IRLP repeater and using nothing more than your DTMF keypad, send control tones to connect to a conference node or reflector or another repeater. And Echolink is a ham-to-ham or repeater or node. And you need, what does he say here? You need special software on your computer to do that. Is that accurate?
I think it's fairly accurate. The nice thing about Echolink is if I go to New York and I don't bring a radio, which I will bring a radio, I could actually access repeaters out here from New York via a laptop. And the ATN folks says, no, I am on 1.2 over my left shoulder. Back to you, Cheryl.
Excellent. And of course, last week there was a question in the chat room that they wanted to know, what are you doing out in New York? Are you just going to New Jersey, then New York, or what was your destination? What are you kind of doing? They wanted to peer into your itinerary a little bit, Gordo.
Okay, heading for New York late tonight, tomorrow, and Radio Club of America on Friday. Then working with hams locally on Saturday and Sunday. Monday, seeing CQ Magazine. Tuesday, going with Ken Newbeck, WB2 AMU, out to Long Island to meet many of the clubs on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then Thursday, Macy's Parade. I got to be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Day after Thanksgiving, that'll be the big KJI open house in New Jersey. Whew.
Awesome. That sounds good. I'd like to be there in spirit with you at the Macy's parade. There's no doubt about that, but that sounds like a full schedule to me, Gordo. I hope everything is ready for you when you arrive there and everybody's back up and running and everything goes smooth for you, of course. But I think that there is one other quick question about just general ham radio gear. We had a KC8 RLU, Gordo. I'm going to still ask you this one. And he wants to know how well it will hold up to an EMP, burst or something like that. Versus, isn't it better if tube radios, don't they survive a little bit better than solid state in those situations?
Well, I think an EMP is going to wipe out a lot of electronics. So I have an old microwave oven right below my operating desk, and inside with AA alkaline batteries is a dual band HT. So I keep the microwave door closed. So that may be the last radio to survive. Who knows what's going to happen if ever there's an EMP.
Hey, what a great idea. I like that one. Cool. Well, thanks, everybody, for your questions tonight. We do appreciate it. It's so nice to see you tonight. And thanks, Bob. It was great. And George, as always, Smoke and Solder is always a joy. You do such a great job with that. And take care, everybody. We'll see you next time on Ham Nation. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Cheryl. Well, Gordo, I'm working on my old tube stuff here from the GE Ham News. And so if it all goes down, this stuff behind me, it'll work. And, maybe all my time I spent back in 1955, 6, 7, 8, 60s, building all this stuff, maybe that'll pay off. Who knows? But you go check out the GE Ham News and RCA. This is great stuff. A real quick thing here at the end. You guys are going to love this. I just got this in earlier today from Gordon Bleinheim in Ontario, Canada. He just passed his license in Canada, and he did it all because he got hooked on Ham Nation, went from knowing very little about ham radio to getting his license. Check it out, Gordo. His call is VA3 TWT.
The TWiT network. That's great. Welcome to Ham Radio. Hope to work you soon.
And he says, I guess now I'm one of the TWiT family. Well, yes, you are. And man, congratulations. How about that one, George? That's pretty good, isn't it?
Boy, that is great. We always like to hear of new hams and also of the old hams who haven't been active for a while getting back into the hobby. And we hear from them every week.
Yes, we do. Well, we pretty much wound it up here tonight. Thanks very much for watching. And just remember that there's so much to ham radio, and you can find a place for it. And in my world, the best literature is a schematic. So you make sure that you join us all. We're headed off to 7268. I think Gordo's got him up in the back, or 14268. And all of the D-Star and the IRLP, the guys are all there after net. Please join us there, because that's where we have a continuation of all this fun. Until next week, from Pleasant Hope, Missouri, that's a little bit north of Springfield, Missouri. We'll see you later, and have fun, and make sure that all your tubes are glowing. 7-3, everybody. And K9EID is clear.